The man was suddenly stunned by the scene in front of him. He was shocked to find that a strong earthquake signal appeared on the earthquake detector, and the chandeliers inside the dam began to shake. Just as he told the professor about his discovery, a violent shock struck him. The professor quickly stepped forward to check the situation. At this point, there were huge cracks on the wall of the dam, and a strong earthquake was hitting this behemoth. The dam, which could not withstand this level of vibration, could collapse at any time. Everyone was fleeing in all directions due to this scene, and the man also escaped from inside. Just as he was fleeing towards safety, he unexpectedly found a frightened little girl squatting in a corner trembling with fear. He walked forward without hesitation, picked up the girl, and charged forward again. However, he was unaware that his actions had plunged him into an irreversible situation. Just as he was vigorously throwing the little girl towards the professor in the safe zone, his foot was accidentally punctured by steel bars. Before he could react, the massive flood destroyed everything like a raging giant. Although the professor and the little girl narrowly escaped the disaster, little did they know that this huge earthquake was just an appetizer. At this time, as a firefighter, Johnson also saw news reports on television, so he immediately piloted a rescue helicopter towards the target. However, an even more terrifying scene caught the eye. The once calm land was now like the sea began to rise and fall, spreading at a speed visible to the naked eye towards further places. At this moment, the earthquake has also reached an astonishing 9.3 magnitude. All the skyscrapers in the city, unable to withstand such a strong impact, began to collapse one after another. When all the people in the buildings saw such a terrifying scene, they immediately went crazy and fled everywhere. And unfortunately, Johnson's wife Anna is also in this building. But in the process of escaping, the sudden vibration mercilessly overturned him. When he got up and opened the escape steel door in front of him, he found an even more shocking scene. Frightened Anna quickly followed Lou towards another exit, but he made a puzzling move. While everyone was anxious and panicked as they retreated downwards, he chose to run towards the dangerous rooftop direction. Anna never expected that he would face the biggest crisis in his life. However, an even more terrifying scene occurred next. When he woke up from his coma again, he found that the place he was in front of him had become completely unrecognizable. But with the powerful survival bathroom, he would never give up hope of life, so he made every effort to climb upwards because he always believed that his husband Johnson would definitely come to save him. Unexpectedly, the next second, Johnson flew a helicopter towards me and soon discovered his wife calling for help on the rooftop. As Anna watched her husband's arrival, she showed a drunken smile. Seeing the situation was critical, Johnson quickly threw down the lifeboat, and Anna immediately ran towards the stretcher. However, at this moment, another crisis also quietly came to an end. At the same time, there were signs of collapse in a nearby building. Johnson immediately urged his wife to act quickly upon seeing the situation. Unexpectedly, the least desirable thing happened. Fortunately, the building did not collapse in this direction, and Anna, who managed to escape, rushed towards the lifeboat again. When Johnson quickly pulled up the lifebuoy, he found that his wife was not on it. Just as he was at a loss, a familiar shout came from him, as if Johnson had won a big prize. He quickly reached out his arm and grabbed his struggling wife. Johnson, who had rescued his wife, was about to escape when a more terrifying crisis struck them. Thanks to his superb driving skills, Johnson and his wife narrowly escaped death. However, this does not mean that they can rest assured at this moment, as their daughter Lisa suddenly called for help. "This is right. Got my house taking a little in a garage, I'm really." With the interruption of communication signals, Johnson immediately decided to fly a plane to San Francisco to rescue his trapped daughter Lisa. But they had no idea that San Francisco was about to face an unprecedented disaster at this time. At this moment, the professor was suddenly called to the office by his colleagues, and they found that the seismic wave frequency in the entire San Francisco was increasing exponentially. By calculating the earthquake level through a computer, they finally froze it at the terrifying 9.6 level. The professor has never seen such a strong earthquake since he was born, so he quickly came to the television station, broadcasted the situation to everyone, and urged all the people to evacuate San Francisco as soon as possible. On the other hand, Lisa is still trapped in the car and unable to move. At this moment, a young man suddenly came to Lisa with his younger brother, and immediately opened the trunk of the car. He quickly found a jack and stuffed it into one of the gaps, quickly moving the handle. When he reached the highest point, he picked up a steel tendon next to him and quickly punctured the car tire. The car immediately descended another distance, and Lisa's feet instantly freed up space for movement, successfully escaping at a critical moment. Then they followed the crowd and advanced towards the location agreed upon with their father. Due to the complete depletion of the helicopter's fuel, Johnson had to change planes and continue flying towards his destination. Just as they successfully arrived over San Francisco, they found that the ground was already congested and chaotic, and even the only airport suitable for aircraft takeoff and landing became unrecognizable. This means they couldn't land successfully at all, until he suddenly saw a sports stadium not far away, and his brain instantly flooded with a crazy plan. He quickly piloted the plane towards the direction of the gymnasium, then grabbed Anna and carried the parachute together. Subsequently, the two of them jumped down from a height of 10,000 meters. In no time, they landed smoothly in the middle of the sports field. However, at this moment, a violent tremor swept across the entire Earth once again. The most terrifying 9.6 magnitude super earthquake in history still arrived, and the entire Earth undulated up and down like liquid. All the buildings on the ground collapsed rapidly in an instant, even the indestructible Jingmen Bridge seemed to sway back and forth like a reins. And while Johnson was guiding the public to a safer sports stadium to take shelter, he suddenly discovered a girl who was injured and unable to move. Faced with the impending collapse of the building, he didn't hesitate to pick up the girl and run away. However, this is not over yet, and a bigger crisis has struck again. Because they hid at the base of the wall, everyone escaped a disaster. Johnson and his wife continued to move towards the agreed-upon place, but they found that their path was completely blocked by the collapsed house. Just when Anna was at a loss, Johnson appeared unusually calm and then turned to look at the sea. But when he was just sailing out of the port with his speedboat, he discovered something terrifying. The seawater on the shore was rapidly retreating at a visible speed to the naked eye, and he immediately realized that this was a typical feature of a super tsunami approaching. In order to survive, he immediately turned away from the coastline and headed towards the depths of the sea. Because only the deep sea area is safer at this time, the energy of a tsunami is relatively dispersed, the wave height is also relatively low, and the impact force on ships is also minimal. To be safe, one must cross over before the tsunami sets in. However, by this time, the tsunami had already begun to take shape, and the height of the waves had already surpassed the Jingmen Bridge in front of them. In order to successfully survive this disaster, hundreds or even thousands of speedboats rushed towards the waves, which would be the only way for them to survive. And Johnson was also firing at full throttle at this moment, pushing the accelerator all the way. He would give it a try and make a final charge towards this unprecedented wave. As the slope of the waves continued to rise, a large number of speedboats beside them overturned due to insufficient performance. But just as Johnson's speedboat was about to cross the highest point of the waves, Anna beside her was stunned by the scene before her. A giant ship filled with cargo suddenly appeared at the top of the waves. As the giant wheel was about to collide, Johnson turned the steering wheel sharply and narrowly avoided the disaster. However, this is not over yet. The containers on the giant ship all tilted down due to severe bumps, but fortunately, with skilled driving skills, they perfectly avoided it. The two people who finally arrived at the safe area just turned around and saw something even more terrifying. The Jingmen Bridge was completely destroyed in a very short time, and thousands of people on the bridge were all buried in the sea. Faced with the onslaught of towering waves, the people on the coast are desperately fleeing, but in the face of the power of nature, any effort is in vain. The surging tsunami was like a raging beast, instantly turning the bustling city into ruins. At this moment, Lisa and her companions had just run to the building they had arranged with their father, but immediately faced a new round of devastating blow. Fortunately, the building was effectively supported and did not completely collapse, but the floors they were on were completely submerged by seawater. At this moment, Jack noticed that the water level was rapidly rising, so they retreated to a higher level and soon arrived at the temporarily safe 13th floor. On the other side, Johnson and his wife wandered back and forth in the ruins, and despite their efforts, they still couldn't find their daughter's trace. Just as they were about to give up, a laser suddenly shone in front of them, so the two immediately turned their heads and looked back. Their daughter is waving her arms through the glass, watching her live intact as before. The two can no longer conceal their joy and embrace each other. However, based on past experience, unexpected accidents are about to happen again. The building suddenly sank in an instant, with a large amount of seawater breaking through the sturdy glass and rushing into Lisa's floor. At this point, the seawater had already submerged the entire floor, leaving little oxygen for him to breathe. Even all the exits were blocked by heavy objects, and even with the force of breastfeeding, they remained motionless. Obviously, Johnson also realized the seriousness of the situation at this time, and after promising his wife to bring his daughter back intact, he resolutely jumped into the sea. When he found his daughter, he was completely separated by a glass. He tried his best to move the heavy object blocking the exit, but couldn't exert all his strength underwater. When he came to his daughter again, he found that she had completely lost consciousness. Johnson saw his daughter's tragic appearance and his inner universe finally exploded. He finally moved away all the heavy objects in front of him, then grabbed Lisa and swam towards the 14th floor that was not submerged. And the Jack brothers were also on this floor, working together to lift Lisa to a vacant spot and start performing CPR on him. Unfortunately, the building collapsed again at this time, and there is a risk of collapse at any time. In order to leave here, Jack picked up an iron pipe and smashed it at the large glass. Unexpectedly, the glass was too strong and didn't leave any scratches. Anna outside saw such a dangerous scene and immediately came up with a solution in her mind. I saw him piloting the speedboat and turning its bow, without hesitation, heading straight towards the glass direction. They quickly rushed the speedboat on Lisa's platform towards the soon-to-collapse exit. At the moment of escaping, the building also collapsed, and Lisa also recovered from her father's timely rescue. The family finally survived this terrifying disaster.